Hello, Bob. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well so far. So far, so good.
So we thought that
Early.
we thought the Celtics were headed for the sweep. I guess the Mavericks had other plans. They just completely blow the Celtics out of the water in Game 4, extend the series back to Boston. Were you surprised by that result on Friday night in Dallas?
I wasn't prepared for the scope of it. I would not have been shocked if Dallas had won. I kept going back to 1986, the best team of all time, who lost Game 4 to Atlanta when Spud Webb, of all people, beat them, and then to spoil the sweep. And then they came home and gave them 36-6 third quarter to win the Game 5. I don't anticipate a 36-6 third quarter tonight against the Mavericks. But the scope of it, naturally, no one was prepared any more than the Panthers were prepared to lose 8-1. To have those two things happen back to back was really fascinating. Then back to the Celtics. Give the Mavericks. I love the way Joe Mazzulla handled it. Joe Mazzulla afterward acknowledged that they were terrible, but then he completely heaped praise on Dallas and took the high road. I just thought that was very classy. But meanwhile, the Celtics should win tonight, and
Yes.
I can tell you, if they don't, of course, there will be great panic around here. You don't want to be the first team ever to lose up 3-0, which people start worrying about. But I have confidence that they'll play their game and get a job done tonight.
Bob, on a side note, also classy was Missoula talking about the passing of Jerry West. And I guess Jerry West gave him some tough love when he was back at West Virginia, when he was kind of on the verge of, throwing his career away. I believe he had like an assault charge against somebody when he was a Mountaineer. And he said the phone call with Jerry West basically set him on the right path. It kind of changed his life for the better.
Yeah, I hadn't made that connection until that moment when I read that. And West and Missoula and all that, and the West Virginia thing, fascinating. Yeah, that you just never know where these connections are going to come from. So that was one I wasn't prepared for.
Thoughts on Jason Tatum specifically in this series? And just kind of looking at the numbers from the other series, he was really good in the Indiana sweep. He averaged 30, shot 46%. In the Cleveland series, he averaged 27 and shot 44%. In the finals, he's averaging 20 and shooting 36.5. I mean, I'm going to chalk some of that up to defense, but is he a little gassed? What are you chalking it up to?
It's just
a bad stretch.
I try to compare the people. In 1981, Larry Bird in games 3, 4, and 5 of the finals shot 11 for 38. He was 3 for 11, 3 for 11, 5 for 16. Then he came back in Game 6 and had a big game and big shot. Okay, just to point out that it can happen. But however, what I am pointing out here, getting to, is that while shooting 11 for 38, Larry Bird averaged 9 rebounds and 7 assists a game. 12 rebounds, and 7 assists a game in those 3 games to help the team in other ways. Jason Tatum similarly has continually rebounded well and passed well, while his shooting is a bit off, and he defends very well these days. He's become an outstanding rebounder, not just an ordinary big guy getting ones that come to him. No, he's become a traffic rebounder of note, but that's not being appreciated enough by people. Here's the problem, and overall though, with being Jason Tatum, if he played for almost any other team, you could just go be Jason Tatum and be appreciated for what you do and how good you are, and your rate of improvement and your contribution to the team. But when you play in Boston, you get compared. Everything's about history, and you get compared now to Bird, and that's not fair. I was present for the famous Sparky Anderson, Johnny Bench, Thurman Munson thing. And don't embarrass anybody by comparing him to Johnny Bench. Remember that in 1976. Well, don't embarrass anybody by comparing him to Larry Bird here, but people do, and it's not fair. Jason Tatum is a wonderful player. They're lucky to have him, and he doesn't have to score to be a contributor.
Yeah.
Assuming Porzingis is going to continue to be out, could that be does that give the Mavs a glimmer of hope, real hope, or is that just sort of a little side story? The Celtics are so deep they don't need him.
It gives them a little hope in that with Porzingis, they weren't able to get off those famous lobs that they used, particularly the ones from Doncic to both Gafford and Lively. Definitely, the Celtics don't have the deterrent possibility on that. They have to figure out another way to combat that. If they had a healthy Porzingis, I think that would be they'd be better off. This is where Porzingis is missed, I think, as much or more on defense than he is on offense. They've gotten by, since then. He's only played the one game since one full game since he got hurt, and he missed 37 days, and he came out and had that spectacular game one. And they're a very different team and a better team with him. But they've managed to scrape by, and they're probably going to have to scrape by again one more game without him tonight. I'll be surprised if we see him.
What's your thoughts on Luka? Obviously a great offensive player, but especially after Game 3 with the, I don't know, some call it a flop, but complaining to the refs. And, he clearly is at times a horrible defensive player. Not just bad, horrible.
Right.
But just your thoughts on him as a player in general.
He's going to have to come to grips. He's going to have to make a decision about how much effort and how much he's going to figure out. All right, here's my, that he's never going to be a great defender. He's never going to have the footwork that's going to be necessary to be great. But you've got to put the effort in, and at time, and better than he has. And he did actually put some effort in Game 4. He's responding perhaps to the criticism. He was really, he got knocked around a lot after game 3, and for that, and also the whining, which is intolerable. He's got to stop that, and he's as bad as I've ever seen. I mean that sincerely. That's a hell of a statement, since I've been watching this league closely since 1969, and I've never seen anyone who was any worse than him for perpetually moaning about everything. So you got to stop that. He's 25 years old, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I X'd this out. He's 25 years old, and there's time for rehabilitation, and he's worth the effort to try to salvage, because obviously we know how great a scorer he is.
We're joined by Bob Ryan, sports columnist emeritus for the Boston Globe. So sadly, last month, Bill Walton passes. Obviously, he had time in Boston. Do you have any reflections or good Bill Walton stories that you want to share?
Well, not a specific story so much as just an ongoing relationship. I did write about him, and there was a story that I did tell. All right, I'll tell you. This is so classic, Walton, and that is, I was honored in San Diego in 2015 with a Red Smith Award from the APSC, and I asked him to present me. He lived 10 minutes from the hotel where we were having the ceremony, and we've been friendly for ever since he came to Boston, and I'm not saying the closest friend or anything like that, but a very nice relationship. And so he introduces me, and Bill, as anyone who knows him knows, is capable of extraordinary flights of hyperbolic rhetoric, and he went to his A++ game of praise and making me sound pretty damn good. And I was sitting there going, oh my God, is he talking about me? And so when it was over, I got into the elevator, and there were a couple of the other guests there, and one of them says to me, I didn't know we came to honor Gandhi. And that's Bill. Bill, there was no gray in the Crayola box,
right.
None. It was white and black, two colors,
right.
And that was it, white and black. Anybody who listened to him do a broadcast knows this now, and he was a unique individual. In terms of a player of extraordinary accomplishment, and a person who just savored life. And yet in the middle of it all, 20 years ago, he was contemplating suicide because of relentless back pain. It was ruining his life. And fortunately, he wrote about this in a book. He talked about how he couldn't deal with it until they finally got some help, and then he resumed his buoyant presence on life. And there's nobody that can light up a room any faster than Bill Walton. And then, of course, we get to the whole Grateful Dead thing, and I can tell you from experience in this house, the incredible museum that it is to the Grateful Dead, with legitimate Grateful Dead instruments and of all kinds. He was absolutely the number one Grateful Dead fan.
So, you speak of having so many different colors in the Crayola box. One guy I thought had only gray was Bill Belichick. Turns out he's got a lot more interest than I ever thought. There's a story now that he's dating a 24-year-old. Well, I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, what can you tell us about this?
Let's go back here, folks. He was accused of being the other man in a triangle in New Jersey.
Right.
So let's go back. No, it's clear that he's hardly asexual. He of course we know he was a groupie more or less for John, and a good friend to this day of John Bon Jovi. Mm-hmm. He went on tour with them at one time in Europe. Basically as a groupie. And as a roadie, a roadie / groupie combo, mm-hmm. And we knew here that he had this wonderful sly sense of humor. We kept hearing about it from the players. We'd see glimpses of it on Fridays when he would be the most relaxed all week. And he's it's more complex. First, look, the whole thing was an act, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The whole persona, and it was built on making it a shield, get a shield to the world so he could do his job the way he wants to do his job. I always fantasized, that after one of these Stonewall press conferences, he would go back into the coach's room smiling and say, well, I did it again. Mm-hmm. I got him again. And he wasn't going to give what he didn't want to give. And it was all about the job, all about doing the job. And that's all.
Did he ever open up around you?
The only time I ever had a real good one-to-one, he had a little policy during his Super Bowl years of having a night during the week at the Super Bowl preparation when he would invite selected members of the media to go to dinner mm-hmm. with him, he and his staff. And I was at one of those in Jacksonville, and so I happened to be sitting directly across from him, just the luck of the draw. Well, it started off that we had a mutual friend, a mutual acquaintance, person in our lives that we could, get that icebreaker conversation going. That wasn't going to be about football, and that's the story. Although it was about football because it had to be a coach. But I'm saying it was about people. And I would say I sat across from him for 2 hours, and he was an engaging companion, a normal person, And I had a couple of quick quips. Things with him at the end of press conferences. On his way back to the room, I'd get one more question in, and he was affable. He's a smart guy. He's organized his life to portray himself the way he wants to be portrayed, when he wants to be portrayed, and he's very comfortable with this.
Bob, I'm sure you've written about golf many times. Any thoughts on Rory yesterday? Hard to watch because I am a Rory fan. I like Bryson as well. I didn't like the way it kind of ended where Rory kind of gave it to him. But
yeah,
your thoughts
I was very interested in this one for two reasons. One is that I was at both the 99 and 05 Pinehurst tournaments in my capacity as a Globe columnist. And I was there for Payne Stewart. 99, of course, and so I'm interested in the course, and I'm all aware of the convex greens, and that's the story. I root for Rory. I root for Rory all the time, and I ache for Rory this morning, and but he did it. He did. He was gone, because I don't know. He had been perfect on those tremendous percentage on under 10 feet, perfect 5 feet and in. He blows those two, and especially the second one was 2.5 feet. But after when DeChambeau three-putted, and I thought, oh, Rory, this is great for you, and of course, then it would turn out to be a battle of mistakes until a shot for the ages. We're going to talk about what DeChambeau did out of that bunker for a long time.
Correct.
No question. And I feel, so hey, he earned it. With that, he gets full credit. Whatever you think of him, and I'm kind of ambivalent about the whole persona, but I root for Rory, but Rory has nobody to blame but himself. Let's face it, and I guess he didn't talk, right? Am I correct?
He just went right to the rental car.
He bolted and did the old trunk slam,
Yep.
And so I feel bad for him, but boy, it was exciting. It was no question, and so I'm going to say it's hard to believe that it's 10 years now and he hasn't won a major, but he keeps finishing in the top 10.
Bob, always great catching up with you. Enjoy your ho-hum 18th banner when it gets hung, when the Celtics probably win it all later tonight.
If you got 30 seconds, I want to say this. Yeah. I've been around Boston since '64. I went to my first final game in '66 as a college student, and I've covered, championships and all that. I have never seen Boston in the permanent frenzy that it currently is about the Boston Celtics. The atmosphere around the Garden is unprecedented. This group of people, this new crop, for whom Larry Bird is like somebody out of Knights of the Round Table, and Kevin Garnett is what? Who? I don't remember him. These people have embraced this team in a way I've never seen Boston embrace the Celtics. And this place, if they get it done tonight, I'm telling you, it's going to be wild.
Crazy.
Boston.
And if they don't,
it's going to be wild.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah.
Bob, thanks so much, man. We always appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye now.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
Bob Ryan, sports columnist emeritus for the Boston Globe. Don't